Okay, good afternoon everyone. So today we're going to talk about globalization, and this is part of chapter 2 for secondary 4 upper secondary social study. And are you ready? So let's start. So the first part is on chapter 2. We are talking about the introduction, where we're talking about sustaining economic development in a globalizing world. So globalization, this is the big question of the start of the chapter. Globalization does more harm than good. But how far do you agree with this? We'll find out in a while. So the learning outcomes of this is that you explain the key driving forces of globalization and what causes globalization, and weigh the pros and the cons, the benefits and the disadvantages of globalization, and last but not least, how does Singapore plans to maximize opportunity and overcomes challenges in the globalizing world. For this part will be covered in the next section we will not be covered in this video. So the outline will be what is globalization, what are the driving forces, and basically what causes it, and what is the impact. But actually it should be impacts. In this case, what are Singapore's strategies to cope with the globalizing world? That will be the next section. First, what is globalization?
Globalization is a widely discussed topic. It is therefore not all that easy to explain such a complicated term in simple words. Let's start from the beginning with the background to globalization. Advances in technology, such as mobile phones, aeroplanes, telephones, and the internet, have made the growth of transport and communication networks possible. Amongst other things, this means that people and countries can exchange information and goods more quickly and in a less complicated way. This process is called globalization. Globalization comes from globe and means the worldwide coming together of countries and nations. Let's look at an example. Companies used to manufacture products in their home countries, just like the companies Profi TV and Supercolor, who produce televisions in country A. Their products are in direct competition with each other, but both companies pay the same salaries and production costs. They have the same customers, use similar suppliers, and sell televisions at similar prices. In short, the same conditions apply to both companies. So far, so good. Due to technical, cultural, and economic developments that have come about through globalization, other companies which manufacture products under different conditions can now offer their products in country A too. That's why a company from country B can sell televisions here at a lower price because they were produced for less. The local firms Supercolor and Profi TV have to react to withstand the competition. And so the world grows closer together, and there is an active exchange of goods between countries. More affordable products are available for more people. However, not only does an exchange of products and economic goods take place, but also of services, knowledge, cultural goods, and even languages. All of these individual elements are closely linked and influence each other. But where there is light, there is also shadow. Because of globalization and this intense exchange of goods, people and the environment often suffer. If a company decides to move production to an economically disadvantaged country, people in industrialized countries lose their jobs. At the same time, job opportunities open up to many locals in the economically disadvantaged country. Many people in these countries work for very little money in comparison to those in industrialized countries. Therefore, they often remain poor, and more often than not, do not have sufficient insurance, social insurance, or health insurance cover. A further disadvantage of globalization is ecological problems, such as climate change. The use of aeroplanes, ships, and lorries to transport goods over international borders is constantly on the increase. This causes more carbon dioxide to be released into the atmosphere, which, in turn, is the main cause of global warming. Even national environmental standards are ignored. This is a further cost factor in the worldwide international site competition, which should be kept as low as possible to be attractive for a company. There are therefore many sides to globalization, which affect almost all aspects of life, causing me to think that the chain of positive and negative effects will continue to grow further. What's important is to realize that globalization itself is neither good nor bad. It just depends how people deal with all the new possibilities in the future.
Alright, this is the introduction video to globalization, and I'm pretty sure that you have got a brief idea of what globalization is. But the important thing here is that globalization is I will say is like it's neither good nor bad, like what you say in the video, and it's up to you to actually make the best use of what is available to you. So let's go on. Globalization, you can understand it as a process whereby people, their ideas and their activities in different parts of the world become interconnected or integrated. Just explain the video, the super TV, super color TV, they are actually in competition with places, other countries. So they become interconnected through many means. They will get into the details later. So this is according to Bill Gates, as you can recognize from his videos, recognizing from his face that globalization is about the world being united by the web. That is according to him. But there's many other definitions. So what does globalization mean to you? If you take a look around, you look at your phone, that's one very good example. And if you look at the environment around you, you can actually find traces, especially for developed countries. Even in developing countries, you can find it everywhere. One very good example is Coca-Cola. So we move on to the driving forces of globalization. Driving forces are basically what creates globalization. I mean, the phenomenon. So this is due to advances in communication, you have advances in transportation, and you have transnational cooperation. And one of it is Starbucks, which is like omnipresent. Advances in communication. This is due to satellite technology enable messages to be transmitted from one location and received in another part of the world almost simultaneously. For example, if you would like something to be bought, like something, for example, a beautiful toy, you can simply call a manufacturer in China through either your phone, or you through WhatsApp, or you can through email or international call. And this allows you to actually get your orders and your messages across, and you're able to carry out the manufacturing from another country almost simultaneously once the approval goes through. So we use tools such as electronic mail, or in short we love to call it email, or faxes, which is rather outdated. You have telephone, and nowadays we even have electronic messages such as SMS. You have WhatsApp, which is more common. You have all different kinds of electronic communication. And how does this make globalization possible? When you have able to communicate with anyone that is across the world, this allows you to connect to the world. Transportation. Development in commercial jet aircraft, you have large ocean vessels, and containerization. Containerization means putting goods in containers to be transported via commercial jet aircraft, or you have large ocean vessels. And how does this make globalization possible? It is possible through the transportation. So you're building up efficient and integrated transportation infrastructure like airports, seaports, railways, and highways. Singapore has one of the best airports, and I would say arguably one of the best seaports in the world. So this actually helps to distribute the goods and bringing the goods from other countries in a very efficient way. Okay, so that you will be able to get your goods, such as perhaps if you are into branded goods, you're able to bring in branded goods from overseas. Okay, so what is transnational corporation? Transnational corporation are large global firms that operate in this number of countries that have a production or service facilities outside their country of origin. Transnational there's often a very confusing term, MNC, multinational corporations. But in this case, they are actually transnational corporation would be bigger in number of countries. Okay, why operate in different locations? As you can see in the video, basically the operating costs will be lower in another country because they are underdeveloped. If you go to another country which is developed, they will demand a higher wage, higher pay, higher salary. So cut their costs to produce at a cheaper rate so that they can compete with other companies other TNCs who are producing the same product, they will actually move to other countries, especially those underdeveloped countries. And how does this make globalization possible? Because you can move your production to other country and bring the same goods back for a higher profit margin. Even if you sell at a lower price, you still be able to get a higher profit margin. So what are the impacts of globalization? What are the impacts? You have namely 3 impacts. The first one is economic, second is social, and the last one is environmental. Okay, the first impact, as we explained just now, we are talking about improve in the standard of living, or in short, SOL. You have the mobility of talents, where talents and foreign talents and local talents can move from local to overseas and from overseas to local. Increased competition, you have different companies fighting for the same, customers. You have widening income gap, because while companies are getting richer, while those in people in underdeveloped countries, they will be not getting much wages, even though it does help them in a way. Exposure to foreign culture, you have loss of local culture. That is one of the impacts. You have environmental degradation and you have environmental management. Okay, these are the impacts. We are explaining the economic impact. Economic impact will have, it can be considered positive, it can be considered as negative. It's up to you to decide. Okay, usually the results are usually in between the both of them. You have North Korea, you have South Korea. Okay, so we have U.S. only $1,800 as compared to South Korea, which is open up to globalization. North Korea is actually, while they close their borders, don't allow other companies to come in, so they consume what they produce. South Korea, as compared to North Korea, they actually open up their economy. So in 2012, their per capita means that each person in the country, that means you take the total wealth divided the number of people in the country, it's called per capita income. They have a US $32,800. That is drastically different. So is it positive, negative? You decide. So they are limited trade with outside world other than trade in arms as well. They love their weapons. And it exports Hyundai, Samsung, especially your Samsung phone, and Korean dramas. That is a form of exports as well. So such as the show Running Man, which is very popular all over the world. So impacts on standard of living, we call it SOL. What can you infer about the impacts of globalization on standard of living? So if you have more money, can you buy more stuff? Can you enjoy more variety of goods? So what do you think will happen to your standards of living? So how does globalization lead to such an impact? Well, when you allow other companies to come in, they are using their money to build their companies in your country. So that is a form of foreign investment. Then after that, we have your exports, where countries produce by our goods that are actually sent overseas. Okay, so next. And you have free trade. So this is one agreement that if you bring goods into my country, I will not tax you. Especially the government, they will not tax the companies that bring in the goods. And in exchange, when your country send goods to another country, the other country will not be taxing you as well. So what do countries compete for? Think about the customers. Who are the customers then? Okay, so example of competition. The port of Tanjung Pelapas, airport of Singapore, they are actually positioned in such a way that they are very near to each other. So when shipping companies, they want to park their containers, as you can see, there's a quite numerous number of container inside. You can see that they actually have a choice. Do I park in the port of Singapore, or do I park in the port of Tanjung Pelapas in Malaysia? And usually in the past, most of them will be parking their containers or using the service of port of Singapore. But recently in time, there are some companies which actually uses the port of Tanjung Pelapas, namely because it's cheaper. And that is an excellent example of competition. So Singapore Port is well known for its efficiency and value-added service. And next, so we have a defection of two major customers, the Denmark Maersk Sealand and Taiwan Evergreen Marines. So defection basically means that they decided that, well, it's too expensive, we need to cut costs, we move on to another place. So they cut rates, they reduce handling charges for empty containers by half. I mean, even though it's empty, they need to shift it as well. So also agreed to allow shipping companies to lease dedicated terminals, means especially for them. So in this case, while if you're facing competition, while you're gonna make measures, and this one of them is cutting rates, means that reduce your charges to be more competitive. So the positive side, which party will benefit and how do they benefit, and on the negative side, and which party do not benefit or why don't they benefit. So it's a very interesting question to think about now when you think about the idea of globalization, how it affect different parties, or how different companies, different consumers, mobility of talents. So opportunities available for talents to work in that country. So if you're a chef, you can actually choose to work in different countries, and usually you will choose it based on a number of factors, such as maybe stability, maybe the pay, maybe your family members. So they can choose a different way. Either you can recruit them, you can retain them, you can relocate them. Okay, so, and it's positive for who and negative for who. Think about the kind of company and the talents as well. So why has globalization led to a widening income gap? There's rapid development in countries that are able to attract investments and talent. So countries who are able to attract investment and talents, and one of them is Singapore, they will be able to develop very rapidly. But as compared, the talents from countries who suffer from political instability, means there is a civil war, or we have poor infrastructure, or lowly skilled workers, or other problems, they are trapped in a poverty cycle. Means their talents will be leaving them. Instead of helping them to develop a country, they'll be leaving them to countries who are able to attract investment talents. On the left. On the right, well, the talents won't be able to help them. So this is actually led to a widening income gap across the globe. So the rich become richer and the poor becomes poorer, leading to a widening income gap. So why is it a problem for us? Later there will be your explanation for SEQ. So social impact, the exposure to foreign culture. Let's take a look. I'm pretty sure that these are some of the recognizable faces due to globalization. They are able to see them because this is very popular in pop culture. So exposure to foreign culture. How does globalization make it easier for us to be exposed? Think about your TV. Think about YouTube. All these are medias we are able to bring these icons, cultural icons, right to your doorstep. So, evidence of loss of local culture, dominance of global brands. So, where does a local brand stand? Or they get eliminated because they lose their business and they have to close. As well as Western values through pop cultures. Western value need not necessarily be a negative values, but there are some part of it which are negative. For example, if you see the picture, this person is consuming, and this is one of the values, consumerism. But actually, if you ask yourself, do you really need so much to consume? If you consume too much, what will actually happen to you? You get all kind of disease, you become fat. So actually, it's about moderation. Not necessarily is bad, but the idea itself, if overused, you'll be really negative. So what are some governments concerned about this? Because what are positive? Think about this. Why are some of the government concerned about this? You have the positive, you get the negative. The positive showing that they'll be able to learn from the best of the best. Some of the cultures they brought in, such as democracy, with giving a fair say for the people, is actually a positive idea to make the citizens involved in nation building, as compared to the negative where you have your local culture is getting eroded. Then question is, what is left of your local culture? Okay, environmental impact. So environmental degradation. So how does the globalization contribute to environmental degradation? So you have deforestation. You need more materials, you have to cut down the trees to build your factories. You have development projects. Okay, this is a dam where they block off the river. So actually the natural development of river where the sediments form will be disrupted. They won't be able to form naturally, and this actually causes environmental degradation. Okay, factories, ships, airplanes, you get a pollution, look at the smoke. Horrible. Okay, deforestation. In Brazil, Indonesia, they have to cut down the trees for farming, cut down the trees for housing development, cut down the trees for their natural resources, and this is one of the impacts of globalization. And you have soil erosion, extinction of flora and fauna, where plants will be extinct, and you have the haze, the infamous haze. Well, this is a result of deforestation. Development projects. You have the Three Gorges Dam, which is in China. So when this first started, the idea is to produce electricity for the entire China, which is a magnificent project. It's a magnificent idea to produce electricity for the entire China. But what I'm thinking about is that this could be negative for the environment, where they actually block off the natural sediments which are used as fertilizers for people to grow their crops along the riverbanks. So actually it degrades the environment as well. And you have soil erosions, the extinction of flora, fauna. Well, when you're blocked, basically fishes can't go through and everything will change. And water pollution especially. Global warming. When factories and ships, airplanes, they use them to transport the goods and produce the goods, they will produce pollutions. So they produce greenhouse gases, and this causes a rise in temperature when the carbon dioxide traps the heat inside the earth. So why is it a cause of concern? Because it can lead to increase in seawater level, and basically the world will be sort of submerged in water. If the icebergs melt, Singapore could be wiped out. Yeah, that's how serious it is. So, environment management, we have this very famous person. If you don't know who he is, well, you can take a look at the video and you will find out. Yeah, his name is called Al Gore.
At the 10 hottest years ever measured, they've all occurred in the last 14 years. And the hottest of all was 2005. Scientific consensus is that we are causing global warming. I am Al Gore. I used to be the next president of the United States of America. This is Patagonia, 75 years ago, and the same glacier today. This is Mount Kilimanjaro, 30 years ago, and last year. Within the decade, there will be no more snows of Kilimanjaro. This is really not a political issue so much as a moral issue. Temperature increases are taking place all over the world, and that's causing stronger storms.
This is the biggest crisis in the history of this country.
Early this morning, Hurricane Katrina slammed into New Orleans.
Is it possible that we should prepare against other threats besides terrorists?
From Paramount Classics comes a film that has shocked audiences everywhere they've seen it.
The Arctic is experiencing faster melting. If this were to go, sea level worldwide would go up 20 feet. This is what would happen in Florida. Around Shanghai, home to 40 million people. The area around Calcutta, 60 million. Here's Manhattan. The World Trade Center Memorial would be underwater. Think of the impact of a couple 100,000 refugees, and then imagine 100 million. We have to act together to solve this global crisis. Our ability to live is what is at stake.
The movie is called An Inconvenient Truth. It actually started from a presentation by Al Gore. Yeah, and you can check it out on YouTube. It's on TED as well. In this case, this is actually a very, very inconvenient truth, like the title says, because it is the truth, but most people will actually think about more violent stuff like terrorism, which is important, but globalization and byproduct of globalization called global warming is an inconvenient truth as well, because if the entire icebergs melt like you see in the film, what will happen is that Singapore would definitely be underwater. So we need to increase in our environmental management awareness. How to manage our environment. We need to use the environment, true, but we know how to manage it as well, maintain it, sustain Sustainable is the key word here. And we need to increase our public education efforts, which is why you are learning now. See? And international cooperation on the environmental matters. Well, you need to cooperate with countries who are producing a lot of carbon, like the U.S. This is not done by a country by itself. If it's done by one country, then basically it will be kind of crazy, because that means that one person saving while the others are polluting. This just doesn't make sense. So you need an international cooperation on environmental matters as well. In the Doha, in 2012, they have a climate change conference, okay, where you have actually representatives from different countries, including Singapore, there to discuss about climate change. And there are research in alternative energy sources like wind, which is one of the specialty for Denmark, solar and geothermal. Singapore is experimenting in solar as well, so sometimes you may see solar panels here and there, and this could be possibly the future of Singapore. Take a look at the summary. So we have the impacts, we have the economic, social, and environmental. These are the 4 areas. Okay, improvement in standard of living, mobility of talent, increase in competition from different companies, and widening of income gap. Increasing competition could be for companies, it could be talents as well, Exposure for foreign culture, you have loss of local culture, and you have environmental degradation and environmental management. You know to manage it so to prevent, a catastrophe. And that will be all. Thank you for your time and hope you have an awesome day.